Welcome to another FPL video. I'm going to be looking ahead to Game Week 15. The deadline is in less than 3 days from now, so let's get straight into the video. So I've scored 9 points, but don't worry, it's only after 2 games have been played, and that includes the Leeds versus Crystal Palace matchup where Rafinha and Gallagher, my new signing, played. Rafinha with a 93rd minute penalty, and Conor Gallagher getting a yellow card, unfortunately, and his XG and XA, exactly 0 for both of them, so not too impressive from Gallagher. And this kind of was a continuation from Game Week 13, but I still looked at all of the stats and different aspects of all of these kind of budget midfielders, and I decided to go with Conor Gallagher, and I still think he can be a good long-term purchase, but of course, there are some doubts surrounding him. Milivojevic didn't play yesterday against Leeds United, but I think McCarthy actually has a big impact on Gallagher as well, and there have been threads on Twitter, for example, that some viewers have actually, referred me to, and it does make a lot of sense. It's not only Milivojevic coming into the team and taking set pieces of Gallagher, which of course he did resume once again yesterday, but there's also the fact that McCarthy has a huge impact on Conor Gallagher, the positions he takes up, and much more. So Gallagher is kind of going to be a wait and see. I know a few of you have been thinking of selling him. I decided to buy him last week. Maybe I should have waited, but I just didn't want Townsend, coming in against Liverpool, just in case, for example, James and Vardy were injured, or in Vardy's case, being rested because he can't play every 3 days or so. Let's see what happens with the rest of the team. I'm still quietly confident. I talked about this in my Game Week 14 team selection video as well, and I still think they can do pretty decent, to be fair. It looks not too bad on the whole, and overall quite a lot of green arrows so far. Obviously we can't talk about Game Week 14 just yet in terms of do I get a green arrow or not. So far it is a minor green arrow from 43k to 38k, but that could easily change, and hopefully I'm around the same position as I am now by the end of the Game Week 14 matches. Let's wait and see what happens today and tomorrow. Still no further updates on Reece James as well, but as I talked about in my deadline stream yesterday, there's going to be a late test, and if James is fit, I would suspect he's going to start. But either way, I think Azpilicueta can come in and do a good job covering for Reece James, and he can then be rested, Reece James, for the weekend match against West Ham. I think that will be the important one for Chelsea. They can't afford to drop any more points in this title race, but overall I'm in a happy position. I've only got one free transfer heading into Game Week 15, so let's actually show you what my Game Week 15 team is looking like in terms of the team selection and what my transfer plans are. With one free transfer and 0.8 million in the bank, this is how my team is looking like at the moment, and once again I've gone with 5 at the back. For the time being, I'm not entirely comfortable with benching Antonio and Gallagher, to be honest, but their fixtures are tough on paper. Maybe Gallagher's isn't so tough compared to Antonio, but yeah, it's not really something that sits right with me benching both of them. And playing Livramento against Brighton, that could easily backfire, but then again, Brighton do struggle a lot to score goals, and they miss some really big chances, to be honest. So even when they create the chances, they have the XG to score, they just don't do that. Sometimes, their goal scoring is really poor from Brighton, and if they had a reliable goal scorer, they'd be much higher up the table. Looking at my actual team at the moment, Ramsdale in goal against Everton. It's not the greatest fixture, to be honest. I know Everton have been very poor recently. Let's see how they do against Liverpool, but you would suspect they're going to produce a response, whether it's in the Merseyside derby or against Arsenal. And to be honest, the Gunners do struggle a lot at Goodison Park, especially in recent years, but Arsenal are capable of doing well there and getting a clean sheet. But of course, the good kind of news maybe is that Calvert-Lewin won't be back for that game. Obviously, let's wait and see if there's any updates before then. But Richarlison should be back, of course, and he's back even for the Liverpool game. Then you have Decore. He's going to be very important to Everton. And to be honest, I'm happy playing Ramsdale, but would I want a double or triple up on Arsenal in this game? Maybe not. I think if you have Smith Rowe, you probably play him in this game. I think he could do pretty well against Everton. But yeah, once again, I wouldn't be too confident in the Gunners. Maybe I'm just a bit cynical with the Gunners in general. But Arsenal, they're a very inconsistent team. I would suspect they would win this game, or at least, get a positive result. And I think Ramsdale could keep a clean sheet, to be fair, and Everton have been struggling a lot, but mainly at the back rather than offensively, where they can still cause some damage, and of course when their injured players come back, they can definitely be a handful. Looking at my defence once again, let's see how Reece James does, if he's actually going to play against Watford, but I wouldn't be too concerned, to be honest, with Reece James. I think if he misses the Watford game, he should be fine for the West Ham match. And I've seen a few people even in the deadline stream telling me, should I sell him? And personally, I don't think it's worth selling Reece James. Even if he misses a game or two, especially just the odd game, I think that's just fine. You take it on the chin, and you have someone on your bench like a Livramento or an Armstrong, for example, coming in to just cover for Reece James. And Marcus Alonso as well. I think maybe one problem with my team selection at the moment is that I'm kind of really backing Chelsea for the clean sheet, and West Ham can still score. And if they do, I would back Antonio to be a part of that. I know he hasn't done that recently, but maybe it's very risky to kind of go with that approach. And the kind of opposite thing happened. Once again, I referred to it. Leicester against Arsenal. I benched Ramsdale and I started Vardy, and I got on the wrong end of the stick there. And that could easily happen by benching Antonio. But Chelsea defence, they're just so reliable. They've got 4 clean sheets in a row on the road, and they could make it 5 against Watford and then potentially 6 against West Ham United. So let's wait and see, of course, but I am still a bit concerned with that decision. João Cancelo, very interesting one. Now, if I'm really confident of Cancelo starting, I'm actually tempted to give him the armband because I look across the squad. Vardy against Villa, I don't think that's particularly a great fixture nowadays with Steven Gerrard there. He's kind of tightened things up a little bit at the back, and Villa look much better as a unit. You've got Tony away to Leeds. It's a good fixture, but I wouldn't captain him. Rafinha against Brentford's decent player. Of course, he's very important to Leeds. He scored 46% of their goals this season, but I don't think I'd be captaining him because his ceiling isn't that high. Even with the penalty scored last night, he didn't get any bonus points for that. Of course, he tends to get the bonus points when he scores, but he always seems to kind of avoid the double-digit hauls, so I would probably stay clear from there. Jota and Salah are good options, and I think Jota could actually do pretty well against his former club, and Trent isn't a bad choice either, but Wolves is still, on paper anyway, a much tougher fixture than Watford, and also City tend to absolutely demolish Watford, and if Cancelo can get a few goal contributions or even just one, a clean sheet and some bonus, that's already a huge haul. So I'm heavily considering going for João Cancelo as my captain. It's going to be between him and Salah, I think, ultimately. Jota is also not too far behind because I have a feeling he could do very well against Wolves too. Then, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I mentioned him just now, and I think a clean sheet is possible against Wolves. Of course, Wolves can cause them problems. They have done so in previous years, but I'm more confident of attacking returns probably for Salah than, a clean sheet for Trent. But then again, the opposite could easily happen. Livramento at home to Brighton. I think that's a decent fixture. I pointed towards Brighton's kind of lack of cutting edge up front. That's always been an issue. And I think Livramento and Southampton could actually keep a clean sheet here. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended 0-0 or if Livramento notched an attacking return of some sort. Of course, the clean sheet is what you're mainly relying on with Livramento. But is it a mistake starting him over Antonio and Gallagher? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But right now, I'm going for Tino Livramento. Then we have Rafinha. This is probably his kind of last game in my team. Of course, he can still tick over nicely even against, the best teams in the league and the world in Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City. And he also faces Arsenal in that time. And he could do well in those 4 fixtures, but I still think it's worth moving him on, especially when you have Jarrod Bowen with an exceptional run of fixtures from Gameweek 16 onwards. I actually have enough money, 0.8 million, like I said. I could move him on to Gundogan or Bernardo Silva, so I have a choice to make there as well. I think one of those 3 I just mentioned, either City midfielder or Jarrod Bowen, could come in to replace Rafinha, but that would be ahead of Gameweek 16. I don't think it's the right time to sell Rafinha. I said the same thing heading into Gameweek 14, of course. The penalty was rather lucky, of course, in terms of the circumstances that kind of came from that, and also the fact that Rafinha was the next designated penalty taker. I was a bit surprised, but he has taken 5 penalties before, I believe, and he is pretty much now, it looks like, 3rd in line to take penalties. Bamford, of course, when he is back, he should be first choice, and Click is another one, but let's wait and see. And as for the rest of my midfield, Jota and Salah, both good captainable options, and I'm happy to keep them and have double Liverpool attack for the time being. Firmino, it looks like he's going to be out for at least another week, so that means Jota should be nailed for that game at the weekend, so I'm very happy with him. And to be honest, even if he starts to get benched from time to time, I think with the African Cup of Nations coming along, I'm happy to keep Jota for that next month or so, and I think he could deliver big time. So right now, like I said, I've got Salah captain, and it's going to be quite close, I think, between him and Cancelo. Let me know what you're thinking of as well. I'm guessing a lot of you will be going for the Spurs assets. I don't have them, but still, a fixture against Norwich, you don't keep clean sheets, and if Spurs start clicking, that could be a very good fixture. What I would say, though, is that Norwich have tightened things up at the back. They only conceded to Newcastle because of a penalty. Then again, though, they did face the 10-man Toon, so that's kind of a different story in itself. and you can't really compare Newcastle to Spurs, despite the fact that statistically Spurs have been one of the worst sides this season offensively. I think they're 19th, obviously with a game less because the Burnley game got suspended. And then my two strikers, Tony away to Leeds, I think that's a good fixture and I'm happy to keep him. He's got some good fixtures coming up, so I think Tony is actually worth holding and possibly even buying potentially. Good fixtures up until Game Week 19, and there's not really too many options at the moment. Benteke was benched yesterday and he missed some really good chances, and that's kind of the Benteke you can get. You can get a really in-form Christian Benteke who scores some really good goals, and that plays a big part in Palace's success, and then you can get the Benteke who misses gilt-edged chances. So I think obviously Tony and probably King would be the two best budget strikers at the moment. Benteke is still a good option, don't get me wrong, especially over the Christmas period, but I just never really seem to, get him myself because I just don't have full confidence in him. But if you look at the stats and you look at other factors, of course, Benteke is a good option, but I would probably rather have Tony, who's also on penalties. Then we have Jamie Vardy. I kind of referenced this earlier as well. He faces Aston Villa. I'm not that confident, and of course, if I had enough money, I would definitely move Vardy on to Harry Kane. Even right now, I would have done it last week as well, despite the fact that he just hauled against Watford. But yeah, I think Kane over the next few should be better than Jamie Vardy. And of course, if Vardy's going to be kind of rested every now and again, it's not really ideal, but still a good option. And if Leicester score, and they have been looking better recently, especially up front, then I think Vardy is still, of course, a good option. And looking at my bench, I'm not comfortable with it. Of course, Foster, it looks like he's going to be out for some time. I've got Antonio and Gallagher there, first and second sub respectively. I think Gallagher, in terms of the fixture, it isn't that bad to be fair, but that will be Ranieri's first game at the dugout, so that will be a very interesting one to see how that plays out. And to be fair, with Manchester United, they actually tend to struggle to Crystal Palace at Old Trafford, but that was with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You can't really, use that as a reference point when you're looking at Ralf Rangnick, who could offer something different to the table. Then again, though, a lot of the same players over the years, obviously with some nice additions in there like Varane, Sancho and Ronaldo, but let's wait and see how that pans out. But once again, I have to stress this, I'm not confident with benching either Antonio or Gallagher, but that's the good thing and the beauty of squad depth sometimes. Hopefully I don't bench too many points. Douglas Luiz I'm happy to have as my third sub, and that's not really something I think about too much. He's pretty much my permanent third substitute unless injuries come into play. And let's see, of course, once again, if Reece James's injury is more serious than firstly anticipated. Of course, it's just a knock. He should be fine for Game Week 15, but you never know what can happen and injuries can develop over time. But that's my team selection at the moment. In terms of my transfer plans, I think the most likely scenario is that I'm going to hold. I've got one free transfer, 0.8 million in the bank, and I've already got some plans. For example, in Game Week 16, Rafinha to a City midfielder or to Jared Bowen. So I want to actually have more flexibility heading into Game Week 16 with two free transfers. And right now, that's kind of the one that I've got penciled in. And the other transfer could be Livramento to Lamptey, but let's wait and see. Nothing is kind of concrete yet, and I'm open-minded to changing my transfer plans. But of course, it's good to have an initial plan and then see how that diverges. But ultimately, obviously, it's good to be open-minded, but you also have to sometimes be rigid. Finding that balance is very important, but it's good to plan ahead and have these ideas in place anyway, just so your thoughts are a bit more concise and also you just make the best decisions possible. Thank you very much for watching, and I have to say a big shout out to everyone for helping me reach 8,000 subscribers. Massively appreciated. We achieved it on stream yesterday, so massive shout out to all of you. We got quite a lot of subscribers in that stream, and hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. And thank you very much to everyone who's joined the Discord server, all the channel members. We're one channel member away from 10, so that would be massively appreciated as well. And of course, there's a lot of perks available, and also you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM, and it's the same as my YouTube username, as I always say. And good luck with Game Week 15. Good luck with Game Week 14, because there's still a lot of games left for that, but of course only 2 days or so for the next deadline. So that's why this Game Week 15 team selection video is out now. And once again, just enjoy the football. That's the most important thing, and I'll see you next time.